My pseudonym's Cringista and I'm a first year medical student studying in London, and you can say a part-time YouTuber now. And yeah, I have changed from a very cringy YouTuber making skits to aiming to increase daily productivity via education and fitness. I like helping people, and so I completely changed my channel, and now my sole aim is to benefit as many people as possible. So I thought to myself, it's from this video I'm gonna try to guide students to join the journey with me. For a period of time I thought my medical notes weren't amazing, but for now I'm gonna start releasing them. And as productivity and creativity is something I'm getting better at, wait for this intro. I went all out. Anyway, so enough of the cringiness. If you're new to the channel, it's Cringista, first year medical student. And yeah, I know that sounds really weird. I can't lie to you, I know it myself, because I'm studying bots, and yeah, by the time this comes out, I'm studying bots. And if you live in the UK, you'll know that you have a personal statement, or the same personal statement that you send off to 5 different universities in the year that you apply on UCAS. Yeah, it's a mouthful. And so today I'm going to be going through my own personal statement as well as making comments as I go through it. I applied to King's, UCL, Imperial and Barts, obviously, because I got in. And I'm not going to lie, the personal statement is, you know, it's a little bit banging, I'm not going to lie to you. But nonetheless, there will be Oxford and Cambridge personal statements in the description box down below, so you can go check that out. And if you guys actually benefited from the personal statement, go thank Abu Torab, who has allowed for it to be accessible to you lot. One last thing before we start the video, my online hobby of making a little bit of income is also coming out December time. So don't tell me to release it earlier, I've said December, but there are a couple of spaces left, so make sure that you message me on Cringista so that when it comes out, you do get a space. And without no further ado, let's get straight into the video. And yeah, I'm going to be using Google Docs, so Google Docs sponsor me. So for quickly going into what is needed inside a personal statement, there are 3 main areas. I'll quickly cover them, I'll go into my personal statement. And so the first one is the personal subjective experience. You're probably thinking, what do I mean by this? So it's like you have to sell yourself like you're making a pitch. So whether it means putting in a real life example of what sort of forced you to go into medicine, whether it be your parents collapsing, whether it be a certain incident where you felt helpless, but it's something that's personal and it's not the generic phrase, I like or I would want to study med because it's a combination of empathy and scientific knowledge fused together. You're gonna get rejected, basically. You're gonna sound like every other medical student. So again, you need to sell yourself to the admissions tutor and basically grab them, essentially. Just like I grabbed those thumbnails that you can see in the B-roll right now. Husband material, I know, I need to get married. Now the second component is the exploration of the subject. So what that essentially means is that your clinical work experience, the other placements that you had, the care home that you were working at, and things of that nature. So it's in this component that actually allows you to demonstrate the reflection that you took from the clinical experience. It's one that shows your suitability to the course. Essentially, it's just on your analysis and your reflection, and that should really separate you from anyone else. Now the last paragraph is presumably going to be the shortest, or one that's more of the maths and chemistry and physics, the Olympiad, the UKMT, that sort of stuff, extracurricular academic stuff that you put in, as well as potentially maybe your skiing, fencing, or things of that nature that is not the necessary I'm a football captain in the local team and that sort of stuff. And so some of you are probably saying, I don't have the work experience that potentially the years prior would have due to COVID-19 and coronavirus, pandemic, if that's what you want to call it. But there are Instagram pages such as We Are Medics that are offering free clinical online work experience. So hopefully that should sort of like differentiate you from a lot of the people. But on top of that, it's normal, like it's going to be relative. Not all the students are going to have the work experience. So it's just about being better than the majority that will allow you to secure that medical space. So again, don't panic, don't go crazy, and let's get straight into the personal statement right now. Okay, so there will be timestamps inside the description box or the comment section, so you can skip to the paragraph that you want to see and certain tips that I will explain if you don't want to watch the whole thing. On top of that, at the end of the video, there'll be a playlist that you can go check out to see where and how I've developed the maturity and the understanding behind this medical application process, just in case you're a little bit lost when we're going through it, but hopefully you won't be, so don't worry about that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly read it and then I'm going to go through the analysis of it. Modern medicine treatments sustain a lifestyle of continual training alongside scientific progression whilst allowing me to improve the lives of others. Displaying care is of no new experience for me. For 2 years I cared for my father, who had a snapped clavicle and a skull fracture after the Finsbury Park terrorist attack. Because my dad wasn't a terrorist, just before someone says it, he got injured. I was in charge of his medication from antidepressants to painkillers whilst providing emotional solace to reduce his PTSD and reverse in vertigo, all of which compelled me to tailor my availability around my father. Shadowing a GP in the UTC is the urgent triage care or urgent triage center, I saw that mere knowledge wasn't enough. Rather, as a doctor, it's imperative to be able to connect genuinely with patients. During the consultation, the compassion of the GP was visible through a smile, intelligent level of care, and appropriate humor. The importance of primary care was highlighted, how creating a feeling of trust had supported accurate diagnosis and patient trust in the NHS, seen by how the patients willingly disclosed sensitive issues. And so to begin, the first paragraph kicks almost immediately into the personal reason, which is on the second line. Displaying care is no new experience to me. If you start off by saying I'm a good doctor due to the fact that I think I'm good and I've cared for people, you haven't listed an experience. You're telling them you've cared in what capacity. Are you caring for your little brother? Are you caring for yourself because you're a person? That sort of stuff. You need to kick into the personal reason almost immediately, and by doing so you'll see that admission tutors, when they read your personal statement, they'll say, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's grabbed my attention. And so this precisely falls in line with the Islamic tradition of the statement of the Prophet, peace be upon him, لَوْ يُعْطَى النَّاسُ بِدَعْوَاهُم, narrated in Nawawi, which is essentially don't make claims that you don't substantiate. And if you are to make the claim, ensure that you bring the evidence. Essentially, it's because admission tutors don't want to hear that wishy-washy circular arguments. I'm good because I'm good, that sort of stuff. Now the second thing I'm going to analyze is where I say during the consultation, the compassion of the GP was visible through smile, intelligent level of care, and appropriate humor. Now you might be saying that I'm listing what he's doing, and yes, you are correct in a sense, but I am being reflective as well. For example, intelligent level and appropriate level of humor, those are adjectives, and obviously I can't see adjectives and it's me describing what he has done, and then I show the effects of them by essentially saying that the importance of primary care is highlighted. That's being reflective. That's almost immediately in the first paragraph showing this guy knows what he's talking about. Again, these are massive words to be using, such as primary care, and that's something that they look for because it shows that you have insight into the realities of medicine. And now when you check like marking points when it comes to personal statements, they look for, does the candidate have an ideal understanding of the realities of medicine? And once you do, hopefully you get more marks. Now one thing you can tell from the personal statement from the first paragraph is that I don't use crazy words like soliloquy. I'm not essentially not giving a soliloquy by using words like the repertoire of skills of the doctor. You don't need to. It's not an English exam. And honestly, I made that mistake where I started to use crazy words. Even I didn't understand a lot of them or how to use them. Shout out to Miss Markelides. He actually helped me. I shouldn't say actually, but you helped me a lot, and I'm mega grateful because she told me that you need to just use simple words. They're not looking for you to sound complicated but only express simple ideas. You need to express complicated ideas via simple language. And yeah, let's just get on to the next tip. Now the next tip I'm going to get into is making sure you're not using abbreviations or words you don't understand on the basis that you may be asked what they mean in the interview and asked to explain them. Because some of the students or some of my peers, for example, they put in GMC, and when they were asked, they said good medical counsel, and they absolutely got finished. The interview didn't go well for them. Obviously, it is a general medical counsel. So again, that's just to highlight that just here, UTC, ensure that you know what it means and its relevance to what you're saying. Okay, getting on to the second paragraph, you can see in the interventional radiography department at St. Thomas Hospital, that I should say, but St. Thomas, they will understand, there were patients suffering from facial protrusions from AVM. Again, I was asked, what does AVM stand for? Is atrioventricular malformation, from what I know. It caused physical and psychological harm seen through her attempt to conceal her face from the surgical team prior to surgery. The perception that doctors dealt only with physical harm alone was shattered. Their empathetic attitude had allowed for the patient to regain confidence and reduce her insecurities, or the doctors were able to control their emotions and communicate with the patient prior to embolization. Again, as a medical procedure, I tried staying away from going crazy into it, but essentially that's the keyhole surgery from what I know. Showing the competency of care, I volunteered at Hackney Pirates Literacy Academy. I aided challenged children by ensuring them of their abilities, encouraging them in reaching new checkpoints, and prioritized the students during play sessions. During my time at London Air Ambulance, simulating the ABCD procedure, assisting paramedics in lifting test dummies, and learnt about the hardships faced in open surgery. ABCD procedure is airway, I can't even remember. Hopefully I'm starting medical school now. Hopefully I won't be a doctor until 5 years later, so you don't even panic. Can't really remember, but you have to know these acronyms. I understood the value of communication between all members of the multidisciplinary team in facilitating survival for patients in critical condition. It's a little bit of hyperbole, I'm not going to lie to you. I never, assisted in lifting test dummies. I just said assisting. Now, I know that's in Arabic it's called the na'ib al-fa'il, where you're sort of hiding the person who done the action. Again, this is like, you're gonna have to do a little bit of hyperbole, going a little bit over the top, not lying, but you got a little bit over the top. You're not gonna have the craziest experiences, but you need to just sort of push the boundaries of truth. I have demonstrated the communication by managing 17 people in the I don't know what managing is a big word to be using. What's better for me to be using is being a part of a 17-man team in the annual dragon boating competition for Solace Charity. By coordinating the timing of strokes, assessing people's strength, and affecting I had to change the word affecting prior, because prior was an absolute, that wasn't the best of me, what I wrote there. Anyway, the drum to ensure synchronization. I believe communication contributed to our success as a functional team and our ability to remain calm under pressure. Now I'm going to go through the analysis. So one thing that I've realized with very, very good personal statements is that they cover the physical harm as well as the psychological harm. Again, this shows that you know the realities of medicine in a sense whereby a lot of the pain suffered by a patient is not necessarily the physical pain, especially when it comes to things such as skin diseases, so dermatitis, skin cancer, but atrioventricular malformation, those sort of stuff. I'd say primarily the pain is psychological, and due to the fact that every time someone sees them, they're like sometimes you can't help it, but you seem a little bit surprised, not in a rude way, and that really affects the mindset of people. So the best personal statements that I find mention something to do with the psychological aspect, whether that be dealing with someone's depression, dealing with someone's financial state which has affected their depression, or something along those lines. Now, another tip that you can see in the paragraph here, or the section of the paragraph showing the competency of care. Now that is exactly like a good link from the paragraph, or the section of the paragraph that came prior, which shows that the doctors were caring for the patient, and now I'm trying to care for students. The reason being why this is a good link is because it has the same genre of care, as you can probably tell, but also it allows for the paragraph not to seem sporadic as well as incoherent. And again, I learned this by doing drafts. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, the way that I formed this personal statement was that I had like 67 different personal statements, and I saw what's good in one of them. So I ripped sentences from bits and bobs and I joined them all together, and obviously I changed the content behind it because they have to be personal and to you. But nonetheless, some of the statements are gonna be correct in terms of like factually correct, as well as the phraseology behind the sentences. If they've worked, if they've got offers, then clearly it's going to work again, God willing. And again, it's absolutely natural that it's not going to be perfect to begin with, and I'm 100% sure that you're going to have to redraft it, whether it be a minimum of like 3 times or twice, or whether it be like a maximum of like 10 times. Now, one thing to realize is that people are going to have different opinions on what makes a good personal statement, so take advice with a pinch of salt and take it potentially from just 3 people, so that the ideas don't necessarily conflict. Reason being is that the more people you go to, the crazy different ranges of advice that they'll give you, and essentially won't be your personal statement. So bear that in mind. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the last and final paragraph, which it is an amazing, this one's a okay paragraph, but nonetheless, like I've said, it's a summary to everything as well as the academic achievements that you've essentially gone through. I enjoy problem solving in maths, so I participated in the International Kangaroo Maths Challenge. Now again, it's a little bit of a stretch. I did take the UKMT, and I got onto the next stage, but my school didn't book me the kangaroo challenge, so I sort of still participated because they still sent like a entry kangaroo challenge thingy, which has improved my deductive skills through following logical processes. My academic deal encouraged me to attend thoracic surgery lectures at UCL in order to remove my medical ignorance. Now, again, like I said, I did attend a lesson or a lecture that was meant to be on thoracic surgery, but the surgeon didn't turn up. So it was on like some King's admission back then, time back. So again, I did attend it, but that's what I'm saying, so you can bend the truth a little bit. My chemistry Olympiad achievement stemmed primarily from my questioning of how different functional groups determine the wide variety of hormones in blood. Again, this is a little bit of bending the truth, you can probably guess. And essentially what this is that, yes, I did take the chemistry Olympiad. I didn't mention what I get purposefully because I sat down, I'd done like the first question and I just left the paper there and I went to sleep. Let me just get on to reading it. A proof of my dedication is reading the 2-year mark on YouTube, resulting in thousands of views monthly while being sponsored by Human Relief Foundation to support orphans. In addition to this, wrestling close to 1 year at an Olympic gym I have benefited those around me by providing a student helpline as a personable elder in my school. It's usually just my characteristics. It allowed me for people to confide in me and has allowed me to appreciate confidentiality whilst dealing with sensitive issues. Again, it's like a cyclical cycle back to the first paragraph where I'm sort of emulating the amazing wrestling coach Amir. You're gonna get a shout out, there's your shout out. And nonetheless, now I'm starting to summarize, you can probably tell. From fertilization to death, life is truly remarkable. The capability of the brain to control personality, sustain homeostasis, and allow for conscious reasoning is extraordinary. My aim is to understand the profound intricacies of that brain and the body, which is the paragraph that the line that I just read. I would relish the opportunity to become a doctor as a combined empathy, communication, decision making, and regardless of the difficulties, I strongly believe medicine is for me. And basically I conclude the paragraph by saying, I know the reality of the medicine essentially, so basically give me a space. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Just to highlight, you can probably tell inside this whole personal statement, I didn't mention a single book. Reason being is that I don't read books, like I listen to stuff, but I don't read books on the basis that I find it really difficult and I just get turned off. As well as reading is really difficult for me as well, you can probably tell, unless I probably crop out the small mistakes that I've made throughout. But nonetheless, the last thing you want to do is mention a book and then get questioned on it in the interview, which means that you're going to have to prepare for the book as well as prepare for the interview. It's just not worth it. One thing you can do is that if you know of a book or you've practiced for a book, that you keep it within your head and then you let it loose in the interview so that it shows that you've done extra reading, and you might use that as a side point. The last thing you want to do is reread or memorize your personal statement in your head so that you then say it. Basically the mistake that I done in the UCL, and she was like reading it, she's like, it's like I was reading it to her. So I just saw her face and I knew that I failed, but nonetheless it was, But again, I do really let loose my personality when I mention, for example, like YouTube, a little bit of wrestling, because wrestling, YouTube, it's not often as, okay, I'm in a tuition center, I'm working, helping the children, I'm in a dementia center, and yes, I went into a dementia center, and yes, I went in and I've done some volunteering at a dementia center. Again, I choose to mention that in the interview, so I have a little bit more. Also, in the interview, I mentioned the job that I have on the side. Praise be to God, I'm not trying to look for evil eye right now, but I'm just telling you, you have to reserve yourself on the personal statement, but still put in a lot. You are restricted for words. One full page of A4, I'm not sure how many lines, but there's a 4,000 word cap or character cap, I think that's what it is. And again, this probably isn't the best personal statement that you're going to read out there. I've tried to explain as I've gone through it, how I've done it, but also one thing that I forgot to mention is that the power of 3, and yes, it feels like we're going back to primary school. My sister told me this, and honestly, I'm being so real with you guys, does wonders. So whether it be, I've used it many times, for example, the smile of the doctor during the consultation, the compassion of the GP was visible through his smile, intelligent level of care, appropriate level of humour, power of 3. Later on I mentioned here, showing the competency of care, I volunteered at Hackney Pirates, whatever. I aided challenged children by assuring them of their abilities, encouraging them to reach new checkpoints, and prioritise students in play sessions, power of 3 again. When it's come to the dragon boating, by coordinating the timing of strokes, assessing people's strength, and then affecting the drum to ensure synchronization, 3. And again, you can probably see power of 3s here and there. Again here, it combines empathy or power free, empathy, communication, and decision making, power free, and I think you should hit the like button 3 times as well. But nonetheless, I think that's a wrap up. The overall general guideline that I would give is 80% like experience, clinical placements, that sort of stuff, with the analysis and the reflection, and then you move on to the extracurricular stuff, and that's like 20%. And so if you want to learn more about the medicine application process, as well as get ready for interview questions, I got a ton of playlists that hopefully should be at the end of the video with the end screen card that you should be able to see. But on top of that, you should just check that out, learn, benefit from it, and hopefully those videos do help you, because they've helped a ton of people. So anyway guys, catch you in the next video after you hit like, but yeah, go check out those videos. So in a bit.